Hey, what's going on everyone? Greg here, and we're just sitting here in the month of August, and we haven't even received an announcement of Apple's September event yet, but I am confident that we are going to see multiple Apple events in the coming months, and I really think we are going to see two fall events, one after the other, with Apple having its own dedicated October event to unveil some of their new products. And let me tell you why the October event is going to be even more exciting than the September event. First of all, let's acknowledge why I believe there will be at least two separate events, and that just has to come down to focus, because there are just a sheer amount of products that we are expecting Apple to release before the end of this year. So if we take a look at the rumored Apple products to be released between now and the end of the year, we have really big products like the iPhone 13, Apple Watch Series 7, AirPods 3, and all of these products sell in enormous amounts for Apple and make up a bulk of their sales. But on top of that, we are also expecting new iPads in the form of a redesigned iPad Mini and a new entry-level iPad. And beyond that, we are expecting the biggest update to the MacBook Pro in years, with a new redesign and the long-awaited supercharged M1x chip. So that is a lot of products to announce at one event. And while Apple has had jam-packed events in the past, they aren't necessarily in a situation where they need to announce all of these products at one event, because in all likelihood, these next events that Apple holds are going to be completely pre-filmed virtual events. So there's no reason to really rush out these products for a timely announcement. Therefore, Apple isn't constrained to holding an in-person event where they might have to do more preparation, like inviting a bunch of journalists to come to this event and check out the new products, and that just gives them even more space to hold these virtual events. That's why we saw 3 virtual events, one after the other, last year around this time period. This also gives Apple a lot more control on the messaging of each product. So in the September event, I would expect the usual iPhone and Apple Watch announcements, and with AirPods 3 being thrown in there as well, and possibly that redesigned iPad Mini, as that wouldn't take up that much stage time, as the iPad Mini and AirPods 3 are pretty simple products to go over and explain. Apple can just focus on these 4 select products, making sure all of the press attention is on them, and ensuring that the iPhone doesn't overshadow what might be an even more important announcement: the new M1x Max. These M1x Max, I believe, will have their own separate event, with the more likely time frame being in October, or at the latest a November event. And these Macs can certainly hold their own at an event, because Apple is going to have to go over a lot of explanation on just how much improvements we are getting with the next version of Apple Silicon. Of course, you know it as the M1x chip. The M1x chip is probably going to be getting a huge jump in multi-core performance if we compare it to the M1 chip, and give Pro users the CPU computing power they need to handle complex projects. Not only are we expecting greater multi-core CPU performance, but the M1X chip is also rumored to come with double the GPU core counts on the smaller 14-inch MacBook Pro, and possibly as many as 32 cores on the high-end 16-inch model. This combination of CPU and GPU power are going to be incredibly important to Apple's highest-end users, and this gives Apple a chance to flex their custom silicon design after already blowing us away with what they could do on their lowest-end entry-level Macs with the M1 chip. Of course, while the M1X will be a big focus on this event, they also have to spend a lot of time on hardware, because we are getting a big redesign to the MacBook Pro in the form of a new 14 and 16-inch MacBook Pro, and that's going to require a lot of stage time, because unlike the introduction of the M1 MacBook Pro and the MacBook Air and the Mac Mini, these next generation M1X MacBook Pros are going to be getting a significant redesign, and the last time we received one of those was on the MacBook Pro all the way back in 2016. In fact, this redesign of this M1X MacBook Pro is actually supposed to fix a lot of the problems that the 2016 model introduced, and problems that we still have today on even the most modern M1 MacBooks. So not only is this redesign going to take inspiration from Apple's latest line of products with a flatter-sided design language, and also reducing the bezels around the display like Apple has been doing with basically all of their products now, so we're now expecting the 13-inch MacBook Pro to move up to a 14-inch display while keeping around the same size and volume. And then, of course, we are also expecting Apple to still be making a bigger 16-inch MacBook Pro. And Apple will also be bringing back an expanded array of ports, like the SD card slot for importing photos and videos with an SD card, an HDMI port for hooking up to a monitor or a TV, and of course the beloved MagSafe charging port. Of course, this MacBook Pro is still supposed to support more Thunderbolt USB-C ports than the entry-level models do, and we currently are expecting Apple to have 3 USB-C ports on these new MacBooks. Also, after seeing the M1 iMac design, even though I haven't heard any rumors about this still, I personally think that we will see a redesigned power brick with an Ethernet port built in because of Apple's ability to transfer power and data through these new MagSafe magnetic connections. Apple is also rumored to be removing some features from these next generation MacBook Pros as well, and it is very likely that we will see Apple remove the touch bar in favor of just a traditional row of physical function keys. Of course, we should still expect Touch ID in the top right corner, like we have with the MacBook Air, and there are no current rumors saying anything about Face ID coming to the MacBook Pros, at least for this year. However, we have heard rumors that Apple is planning on giving us a long-awaited upgrade to the webcam on this MacBook Pro, and supposedly they are going to be bumping up the resolution from an abysmal 720p to a 1080p camera, and hopefully that means we will get the same or similar quality as the camera found on the latest M1 iMac, which offers pretty good video quality for a built-in webcam. One of the biggest upgrades to these MacBook Pros will actually come with its display, with multiple reports from Ming-Chi Kuo and other supply chain sources saying that these M1x MacBook Pros are currently in production with mini LED displays. These mini LED displays should offer the same visual quality that we recently got on the M1 iPad Pros, so we should see specifications like 1,000,000:1 contrast ratio for deeper black levels, and up to 1600 nits of peak brightness for viewing, and perhaps more importantly, editing HDR content on those bigger MacBook Pro displays. This feature alone will be a huge boon to content creators who want a MacBook that will be good enough to use as kind of like a good enough reference monitor for their own HDR videos, and perhaps it would be an even better combination with the latest iPhone 13, which is rumored to be bringing ProRes video files, and the iPhone 12 can already shoot in Dolby Vision, so that combination would probably make for some pretty crazy high dynamic range smartphone videos. As for the price of these MacBook Pros, I think both the 14 and 16-inch model are going to be, well, they're going to be expensive. We saw a price increase on the 12.9-inch iPad Pro this year by an additional $100 because of the addition of the mini LED display, and I think we could see a similar price increase on these MacBook Pros, because the current 13-inch model starts at $1,799, so I don't think it would be too crazy if Apple started the price of the 14-inch model at $1,899, and I hate to say it, but I really wouldn't be shocked to see the 14-inch model starting at $2,000 and possibly $2,500 for the 16-inch model. I hate to be pessimistic about pricing here, but it just seems like that mini LED display is going to be a costly component. I really hope I'm wrong about that. I really hope the starting prices stay the same, or hey, it would be great if they got lower too. My wallet would appreciate that. But I'm just saying, if you're budgeting these MacBook Pros, expect them to be expensive, because not only will that mini LED drive the cost up of these MacBook Pros, but we are also expecting that these MacBook Pros are going to have greater expandability. So we are expecting at least configurations of up to 32 gigabytes of memory, possibly as much as 64 gigabytes of memory. And then for these storage tiers, these should go much higher than the M1 MacBook Pros, which only max out at 2 terabytes. And I would expect that these Pro-level computers would max out at what the current Intel MacBook Pros can, at up to 8 terabytes of storage. Now, while most rumors and speculation is on the 14 and 16-inch MacBook Pro at this event, I don't think it will be the only M1x Mac at this October event, and I fully expect to see Apple release alongside these new MacBooks a new M1x Mac Mini. Earlier this year, we heard some rumors from Jon Prosser about a redesign for the Mac Mini with a kind of plexiglass top and maybe a two-tone color finish. And we received a fresh report not too long ago from Mark Gurman saying that an M1x Mac Mini would be released very shortly after the release of the M1x MacBook Pro. That indicates to me at least that the M1x Mac Mini will probably be at this event. I don't know when else they would announce it. And I like to think that Apple would have a desktop variant of an M1X computer as an option for developers or pros who prefer to work on desktop systems. As for what to expect with this M1X Mac Mini, well, it's pretty simple. We really are expecting to get a pretty similar form factor to the current Mac Mini, with the possibility of just a slight redesign. And then, of course, Apple's just going to put that M1X chip in there. It's probably going to be the same one that's going into the 14 or the 16-inch MacBook Pro, maybe the option for that higher-end 32-core GPU M1X chip, but of course the main focus with this new Mac Mini will be the expanded port selection to replace the current Intel Mac Mini that's still in the lineup, so we should see port parity. So 4 Thunderbolt USB 4 ports, 2 USB-A ports, an HDMI port, and of course an Ethernet port. From my point of view, sticking an M1X chip into the Mac Mini, a type of enclosure like that, it's a pretty straightforward engineering task for Apple, and I imagine even if there were chip shortages, I mean there are chip shortages, but the main components I would expect that would actually be delayed from that chip shortage are the mini LED displays, and not really the M1X chip, so I think the M1X will be in plentiful enough supply to allow for a Mac Mini to be announced around the same time. As for other Macs, like the 30-inch iMac, we probably won't be seeing that announced until sometime next year, and the Apple Silicon Mac Pro released again sometime in 2022, probably at the end of 2022. But yes, that is what I think we will see at a separate Mac-focused October event, and what products I think we should expect to see there. But let me know in the comments below, do you think I am off the mark on this one, and that Apple won't hold a separate October or November event, or do you agree with me that we will get multiple events this fall? As always, if you liked the video, show your appreciation by leaving a like. If you want to see more from the channel, see if I was right or wrong in a future video, make sure you're subscribed, and as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Take care, everyone.